Good evening and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 198th take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show. It'll be a little bit of deja vu, but a whole different take, as I usually do. Without further ado, before we get to of course, introducing our guest of honor tonight, which will be a fantastic, fantastic show. It's always great to have him on. And before we get to that, we'll obviously have to thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Yes, the Bitcoin is coming, everybody. February 17th. Mark your calendars. You've had 3 unbelievable chances to get into the Bitcoin sweepstakes. Yeah, Drew Estates are making someone a whole lot richer. They're giving away an entire Bitcoin to one lucky participant on the Freestyle Live on February 17th. That's just in a little less than a month and just a few days before the event that we're going to be talking about tonight on tonight's show. So you definitely want to check out the Freestyle Live on February 17th to see who, and it could be you, wins an entire Bitcoin from Drew Estate. And congratulations to the folks at Drew Estate Cigars for being awarded the 2021 Consensus Champion with the Underground 10. What a magnificent feat for them and our good friends at Drew Estate. So without further ado, we welcome you back to our 198th take. And here's our guest, sponsored by United Cigars. Smoke one today. Start living united. Mr. Abe Dababneh. Abe, how are we doing tonight?
Good evening, Bear. How's everything going, buddy?
Oh, everything is absolutely fantastic. I am exhausted. I chased my kids around for the entire day. We went to one of those trampoline places. And then a friend of ours invited us to dinner where they had an outside play place for them to run around some more. So I chased them around there with a burger in my mouth. And so I'm exhausted, which is why I have coffee at 9:30 at night my time. So, but I'm excited to have you on. How about yourself? How was your weekend? I was asking you a little bit about KMA just before we went live here.
We had a great show yesterday with Kier Viajante and Kevin Sheehan. Talked about their new cigar they're doing, the Silent Green. And as always, we have fun on KMA. You know, that's why we keep doing it. It's really a fun way to start our Saturdays. And then just kind of had a little function I had to go to in the afternoon for a few hours and just kind of been resting up. That's it. Had a bad toothache, trying to nestle it, and I'm drowning it with a little Macallan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I saw you nursing that a little bit. It does the trick. I mean, it's not obviously not a permanent solution, but it does the trick. It kind of eases the. I mean, it literally does kind of ease the pain a little bit. So sorry you're dealing with that.
Just enough.
Yeah, I really like. I really love KMA. I don't think we've ever had this conversation. I really like what kind of even though it's on Saturday, it kind of starts the week for me. I don't know. I feel like the week starts on Saturday because and then just kind of there's stuff that happens throughout the week, the rest of the stuff, our day to day or my 9 to 5 and the shows that I do and stuff like that. So I feel like Saturdays kind of are the kickoff to the week for me. And I've always really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
So so what a couple other things I wanted to kind of just kick the things off. So you mentioned, so what Macallan are you drinking? 12, 15, what are we doing? 15. Nice, classic. Yeah. So are you more of a Scotch guy? Because the last few times that I've had you on or that I've seen you've been drinking Scotch.
Becoming more and more. Actually, my wife kind of really broke the ice in that department, got really into it, and then just started getting into browns a lot more lately.
What was your kind of before you got even into cigars and stuff like that? I mean, what was your go-to? Were you more of you said browns, so were you more like vodka or gin or?
My younger days was mostly tequila, and vodka.
Mm-hmm.
Then we really got kind of into wine, my wife and I. Well, my wife was into wine when I met her, so she got me more into wine. And just kind of got into browns in maybe the last year and a half.
I love tequilas. Tequila is one of it's probably my go-to spirit. Has been for years at this point. And I've really enjoy that, especially on Thanksgiving. Is always my tradition is buying a new bottle of tequila that I've never had, and then smoking a year-old añejo from Arturo Fuente.
Oh, wow.
They come around about that same. They come out to market around that time, so I'll always buy two. Back when I was on a budget, well, I still am, but I would buy two. I would buy one to smoke then, and then I would buy another one to smoke a year later, and that was my Thanksgiving. That's my Thanksgiving tradition every year. Just to smoke a year old añejo and then a new, a glass of a new tequila that I've never tried.
That, my friend, sounds like a good tradition.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. So, speaking of traditions, we have a tradition on this show, and we carry it over to Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition. I really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed this, just especially when I have guests who aren't necessarily specific or loyal to a particular brand, but I am a loyal customer of Smoke Inn, so you'll recognize that. And these are all three cigars you can get at Smoke Inn, one of their many locations. You could walk in and get them, or you could actually order online, of course, at smokein.com. So Abe, it would honor me if you would actually select my cigar for tonight. I've picked these all up at Smoke Inn, as I mentioned before. So I've got one of the newest, the new of the old new. I've got a timeless Prestige Hermoso from Ferry Otego. I've got the Rocky Patel Grand Reserve, recently anointed on the Cigar Aficionado Top 25, and a classic that I love going to in all the Tolas, but I have the Robusto variant here, which is the Diamond Crown Julius Caesar Robusto.
Oh, you got some 3 solid picks there, but being that it's basically we were coming upon TGS month, and Michael is a big part, has become a big part, especially with the virtual and digital side of the Great Smoke. Let's go with the timeless in honor of Michael Herklots.
Fantastic. I did that on purpose. I chose that one on purpose. I figured that would be a possible favorite for you tonight. So thank you so much. I am honored to smoke this.
It has meaning for tonight, right? So it works.
Exactly. So I mean that before we do get into our major point tonight, I do have a question. So it's funny because we've already had a couple people in the chat kind of joke around about this. Even Mickey Peg, All Saints Cigars, asking if you ever sleep, and we found out on last time we I guess 2 weeks ago now, Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition, that you didn't sleep that night. You actually pulled an all-nighter. But I was curious about this. We kind of talked a little bit about like beverages and stuff like that, but like, what do you do for fun? Like, do you have any hobbies outside of work? I know you're a big family man, and which I am too. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I love seeing is just how you are with your kids. But
pretty much stage of my life, if I'm doing something for fun, it's just typically with the kids. I mean, anything with the kids is fun, whether we're painting pottery or going to catch a movie or even just going to a park or bike riding even. So, I mean, kind of really, I mean, if outside of spending time with friends and my family for fun, I think the only kind of regular hobby that I might do on, and I don't even do it on a regular basis just because I don't have time, is I'll go to the range more often than anything.
Okay.
So
firearms, right? Not golf range?
Yeah. No, firearms.
Okay. Yeah. Because that would have been funny. Like, no, Bear, I like to hit my pings. Like, what's wrong with that? No.
It's enjoy going to the range and laying off some rounds. It's a very relaxing, I guess. Oddly enough, funny word to use when going to the range, but I get very relaxed after I'm done with some time on the range.
I'm from Texas, so I mean, shocker. I have a lot of friends that do that too, to blow off some steam. And I've had so many people say that to you, like, oh, Bear, it's so relaxing. It is. And don't get me wrong, I've been to a range with some friends and I've enjoyed the experience. I enjoy the experience a lot, but I find that like I'm just so focused, I'm just so laser focused on everything that it's not a relax. It's fun. It's just not a relaxing experience to me. But yeah. What do you do? You shoot the same thing? Do you shoot pistols? Do you shoot?
I got some
rifle?
I got
Or?
no, I got some pistols. I got an M4. I got an AK, and you just mix it up. And then sometimes you go with buddies who got other guns, so you try their stuff out and see how it goes.
What's the most fun firearm you've ever shot?
I'm in love. I bought a new Beretta, military grade Beretta, about a year and a half ago, and I'm loving that handgun. It's a big handgun, but I'm loving it, and it shoots great, and I find myself most accurate with it. That's like my new favorite piece. I mean, it's fun to shoot an M4, or an AK, but I just really enjoy the feel and using that piece when we go to the range. That's like my favorite piece to use.
They say my one of my best friends in the world, he manages a gun range, and he said that the best gun in the world is the one that fits right in your hand. So if something
I got
feels
a
right in
big
your hand,
hand, so it fits really good in my hand, and it's a double magazine in it, so it holds I think it's like 19 or 20 some rounds. So you can get a nice session in without having to reload that often. And it's nothing I could carry around with me every day because it's just big. But
right?
I enjoy that one the most. I really do.
We're totally going down this rabbit hole now, but you mentioned the word carry. I'm from Texas, so carrying is like second nature here in the state. Do they have like open carry or concealed carry laws in Florida?
Yeah, we have a concealed weapon license. I have one, and Brandy has one. So yeah, it's pretty common down here in Florida.
I again lived here all my life, and it's always just kind of been a part of it. It's just existed, and I've just never thought about other states about whether or not. I hear Michigan's pretty pro gun too. Fun fact: the states of Michigan and Texas are the only states in the entire United States that a person who's legally blind can be given a hunting license.
Oh wow!
Fun facts, fun stories. I'm sure.
Learn something new every day. That's a good one.
Here's the best part, though. In Texas, in order to be given a license, if you're legally blind, you have to be accompanied by a sighted partner.
Really?
Yes, that's in Texas. In Michigan, that's not a requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so in Michigan hunting season, you just may want to be blasting music when you're walking through some popular hunting grounds or something. And just food for thought. But as we come out of that rabbit hole we just jumped out, that's fun. I really, like I said, I know how busy you are, and I know how big of a family guy. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I've no idea what you would do for fun. So it's always kind of nice to just learn some new facts about people and stuff. But
pretty much, it's become very kid oriented in the last decade plus. I mean,
I get that.
And we just enjoy our time with them. So it's not like it's a burden, or it's not like a task. Oh, I gotta spend time with the kids. We try to figure out stuff to do with them, because it's just fun spending time with them. I really enjoy it.
I do too. I think they wear me out, but it's just so much fun. And you can tell, from the photos and stuff. I love the selfie shot of you and your kids in the car where they're all doing their version of a face with of your face, your look.
They're mean mugging.
Yeah, their trademark, your trademark look, man. It was classic. I loved it. But let's kind of dive in here into tonight's major point. Are you smoking tonight, Abe, or are you just drinking?
It's Sunday at 10:30 at night. I'm home, so I'm in the dining room. So
Nice.
There'll be no inviting of cigars during this show for me.
Gotcha. Well, tonight's major point is always sponsored by Protocol Cigars, Power of the P. Tonight's major point is brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people, the people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back. From the original Protocol Blue to the latest release in the Lawman series, Bass Reeves, Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It's what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So, Abe, we all know why we're here. We're less than a month away. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know if you've got butterflies or if you're, you're going nuts, or if you're in the home stretch and you're kind of hitting that calm before the storm. I don't know what the zone is for you, but you got the background, the last luau, the Great Smoke 2022. It's on horizon, man. What is this the last month look like for you? Is it like laser focus? Is it nerves? Is it butterflies? What does this last month look like for you?
No, I don't get butterflies. I don't get nerves. If anything, I probably get some agita. But this is one of our most challenging years, without a doubt. And not in terms of amount of work, because like last year was extremely challenging because it was a lot of work getting ready with it. It's been challenging as far as problematic issues constantly arising and putting it together. In fact, we announced on KMA Saturday morning after a 3.5 hour meeting on Friday, our original plan of having this separate studio for Michael Herklotz to work out of doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition. So we're still going to have a virtual thing. It's just the interviews that we were going to have, like this little separate room, will happen on the main stage. So everybody at the event and at home can watch that interview at the same time. And anybody who bought a in-studio experience during the Great Smoke, for those coming live, you'll get an email this week giving you all the updates, and we'll be refunding all those tickets to those people. So it's been a logistical nightmare. There's been, we were supposed to have the cigars from all the manufacturers before the 21st, and that didn't quite happen. We've had a lot of manufacturers who had to have sent us partial shipments because we have to get the virtual packages out starting this week. And the rest of the cigars will be given out the day of the event. So but it is what it is. I mean, it's kind of the Great Smoke every year. Try not to cry about it, try not to whine about it. We just get through it and figure it out, and we'll keep making changes and adjustments as needed. And hope that it all goes down the way we planned the day of the event. So yeah, these last 3 weeks are going to be it's the home stretch. It's the most trying weeks. We got one virtual event, mini virtual event coming up with the TGS release on February 9th. And that'll be the kind of last TGS function we'll have up until the 26th when we have the event.
One of the things that's always impressed me about you, Abe, is that you seem to roll with punches like nobody's business. Like, I mean, it's almost like, I mean, it doesn't matter the problem, big or small or whatever. It's just like, it's like a speed bump in your way. It might slow you down for a momentary second, but it's still always just moving forward. Does that just kind of your mentality and everything?
Yeah, I think it's a state of mind. I try to tell it to a lot of the guys that work with us here at Smoke Inn. I mean, I could barely count. I mean, I could barely think of times where we were put up against the wall and we just had to say, screw it, we can't do it. It just forget it. Because if you dig deep enough, there's typically always an answer out there somewhere, or a solution out there somewhere. And my mentality is always just keep digging. And it's like I have to exhaust every option, as crazy as it sounds, before I'll say it just can't be done. Some people get to that point a lot quicker than others,
Right.
That's like my really, really last resort of any situation where I just say it can't get done.
Well, it must have come to that if you finally have. But even this, like, you're not giving up on the virtual experience just because you couldn't have it the exact way you wanted it. You're just shifting.
No, we made a lot of changes, and kind of really depending how this goes, we're really going to take a hard look at how it's going to work out next year. I kind of, just from a logistical standpoint, kind of just shut off that I wanted to do this without really thinking out the math. The cost of production to do it the way we kind of set the standard for is immense, which wasn't a problem when we didn't have the overhead of having a big facility for 2,000 people. But now this year, logistically and financially, it's really not making sense. which is part of our 3.5-hour meeting with the production team. But it is what it is. This year, we're going to find a way to go through it, and I think we'll find a way to make it work next year too. I mean, it just seems to be so important to a lot of people to participate who can't make it down. I really would hate to give up now that we're going to do it 2 years in a row. I'd hate to give up that aspect of it. So it really have to be like impossible to continue to do it for us to stop. We're just gonna have to find better ways to make it happen next year. That's all.
Yeah, and just pivot to some different experience. I mean, that's been the TGS model from the very beginning, is just every year it's something different.
Honestly.
What's that?
It's kind of been our smoke-in model, honestly.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I was stand corrected on that. It's like basically the Abe Dababneh school of thinking here. But I mean, speaking of I guess repeat things that you've done before, but this is only the second time it's happened. This year has a theme, right? So the last luau, it's the second time that you guys have done a theme and everything. Why did you settle on the last luau, and what's the meaning by, like, why is this the last luau? Like, what's going on there?
So we came upon a theme in 2020 on accident, and one of the things that we constantly thrive in doing the Great Smoke is always trying to make it somewhat of a new experience, because we really have people who now will have come now for 16 years straight. And that keeps going in people because it's never the same thing. Otherwise, people just get tired of it. So the theming of the events really worked in 2020, and is epically working this year. And it just makes it easier to incorporate things that kind of make each event now stand on its own as something completely different. So when we were making the teaser video for the digital experience last year, and we like to come up with a tagline. So for the disco year was "Can You Dig It?" And I'm just an alliteration guy, so we were trying to think of something luau. I just did the last luau, and after, I think it was probably 1 a.m., 3 of us were sitting there, and we had come up with a bunch of ideas. The last luau stuck. It's basically because it's the last luau you'll ever have to go to. It'll be that epic. It's like we're gonna party like it's the last luau on earth, and that's kind of the theme of what's going on.
Okay, I think I had an epiphany, because that totally makes sense to me. And our good mutual friend Erica Tormson of Cigar Dojo, they made those T-shirts from years ago that were like, this is a tribute or in memory of my last cigar T-shirts, and I never got it. Like I was like, I don't get the shirt, and he tried to explain it to me, and he explained it to me in the terms that you just did, but for some reason it didn't click, and it just clicked what you just said. So I think I just had a major epiphany on live on air here. This is interesting.
We're not going to have another luau again, right? So I mean, we already have the theme for 2023 down. So this is the last luau. I mean, I know some people like, oh, this is the end of the Great Smoke. We never said it's the last Great Smoke. It's just the last luau. So, and it sounds good.
Yeah, no, I like it. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm thrilled at the prospect of even just the hint, even though it was done. You confessed on the show on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition that it was a total Photoshop job, but just the anticipation that Michael Harklotz may don a Hawaiian shirt is enough to get me excited.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he will. I mean,
probably not. But I mean, it's just the tease of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, he was a good sport and did it for our slider photo on the Great Smoke on the GreatSmoke.com website, because we had this nice photo of Kim in like a tropical bikini. I'm like, yeah, to put a picture of Michael in a suit next to him work. So I literally texted Michael, Mike, what's the odds that you have a Hawaiian shirt? You own a Hawaiian shirt? And he's like, yeah, probably about the same odds as you'll get me to wear one. I'm like, come on. But he didn't have one. We literally bought one, had it shipped to his house, and he put it on and sent us some pictures. So he's a good sport about stuff like that.
Nice. Oh, nice. No, Mike's a good sport about everything. I feel like I mean, he's a true professional, but he's also not so uptight enough that he doesn't self-deprecate and can have a good time and laugh at himself and stuff. And that's what I really like about him personally. So to go along with this theme this year, obviously there's going to be some real nice, theme appropriate events and stuff. We're gonna have there's gonna be a drum show, right? And a couple of other items. Like what other aspects are going to go along with this theme here?
We got a couple volcanoes. There's a drum show. There's hula dancers. There's drum fire dancers.
Fire dancers. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a lot of fun.
That was an interesting process with the fire marshal, but I think we're through that now. It's gonna be decorated as such. The one hard thing that we really couldn't see, we really wasted a lot of time on this. It was not wasted, but spent. It's very easy to do music when you're having a 70s disco. Very easy to do music for many themes. But when we opted what kind of music we were going to do for this event, there's nothing Hawaiian, I think, that would work for 4 hours. Listening to Tiny Bubbles or, I don't think we really had a hard time. So we're just going to go with, in between the shows, just live, just DJ music, with our very own Smooth Bounce, Kyle, who's become very popular within the Socialite group and is part of our smoking family. So we're just going to pipe regular music to keep everybody happy and going. And then we'll have the interviews that Michael Herclocks will have with our 5 manufacturers who made TGS releases here. That'll just happen live on stage. So whether you're home virtually watching it or you're at the TGS, you could actually watch it at the same time. Because before that was going to happen in the studio. So if you were live, you weren't really going to watch that. You could have caught it later,
right,
on Facebook or whatever. But now it's just going to be on the main stage, which means logistics had to completely be refigured, which I haven't gotten to yet, but we'll get it done.
So one of the things I was going to ask about the some of these these events, everything like that. What's some of I've heard you say this 1,000 times that like you guys will just be in a room and just pop off ideas, and some of them seem crazy at the time and everything. What's been one of the craziest ideas that anyone's ever thrown out? And it could have come to fruition or could have not come to fruition. But like, what's one of the just absolute batshit nuts, something that was either tossed out by yourself or one of your team when it came to the Great Smoke?
For me to have an entrance either via helicopter or skydiving. That's about as really crazy. And that did not come to fruition, nor will it. 1, I don't do helicopters, and 2, I'm too heavy to go skydiving solo.
Well, I was going to say, if you don't do helicopters, you sure as hell aren't going to do skydiving. So
no, I'm not afraid to go skydiving. I go skydiving in a heartbeat. I don't trust helicopters. Statistically speaking, I know more people who have died personally, more people who have died in helicopter crashes than any other form of transportation. So,
well, that's terrifying.
That's all I need to know. It's funny because my operations guy, who it was his idea, I had this argument with him saying, I'm telling you, I could count on 3 fingers, maybe 2 people who have died in car accidents that I've known in my life. Can't count any in airplane or train or buses, but like I knew like 6 people personally who died in helicopters. I said,
oh my gosh.
Well, so I had this argument. He had the same reaction. And sure enough, like 8 months later, like 2 people he knew died. He goes, dude, you're right. And and all of a sudden now, and then after that,
well, then Kobe Bryant famously,
it literally happened months after that too. And now he started paying attention, and helicopter crashes are common, man.
That I'm seriously going to second guess anytime I want to go into a helicopter now. I've been in one twice now, so apparently I've skirted death, and I haven't even known about this.
No, it's like one of those military grade, or what do you call the people that go out in the ocean when boats capsize?
The Coast Guard, yeah.
I mean, those are different choppers, but like those little fishbowl choppers or like toothpicks.
Yeah, with the bubble up front or whatever.
Yeah, it looks like a fishbowl made out of toothpicks. I'm like, no, never getting on one of those.
Crazy. Oh man, nuts. So well, I guess the the other thing I wanted to kind of touch on too about with some of these highlights and stuff. I know that one of your favorite all-time moments, and we mentioned this on the other day on the last show you were on, the bull ride, the bull, the mechanical bull that you guys had. What like when I mean, obviously it doesn't really fit with this year's theme and everything like that, but I mean, will you ever bring that back? Because I love a good mechanical bull. I know that sounds really weird, but I was like really excited about the prospect. I was like, wait, it doesn't fit with the theme, and it probably is not going to be there this year. But
We have like 5 or 6 themes that are already stuck like on a wall that, as we think of cool stuff, we keep adding it. So a Western is on there. So I'm sure when we get to a Western theme, if we ever do a Western theme, the Wild Wild West, that would be the time to bring back the bull ride.
I'm serious. I would show up in a duster and a cowboy hat and some boots to the middle of Florida. Yeah, in February. I mean, it's not going to be like scorching hot or anything like that. So I could totally be comfortable in that, and I would rock that.
Yeah, it's a great time of year down here.
So so along with some of these like highlights and everything like that, I mean, we again, I know this has kind of been hit on a few times, Abe, but I gotta say that, like, we were talking about your kids earlier and talking about family and everything, but that the moment last year with your daughter on the Great Smoke, the virtual experience and everything, I mean, I was thinking about this, and we were talking about like your Mount Rushmore on Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition. If you guys haven't caught that, you can go catch the replay on Cigar Coop page. Really great stuff that we talked about that night. But I got to thinking about this. I mean, as a proprietor of Smoke Inn and as the founder of this fantastic event that has now become, you said you feel like it's on its way to becoming the premier cigar event, in the country.
I mean, it's definitely one of them. It's definitely one of them. I mean, there's probably 5 or 6 events that are pretty much draw national audiences. There's big local events.
Sure.
Right. There's big local events, locally and regionally in areas, but I think maybe there's 4 or 5 that really draw people nationally from many, many states. And we're definitely one of them. But I think after last year and the direction we're going this year, if we pull it off, and, we had the great momentum of the disco theme, and then we were going to do the luau the following year, and then we lost it. So then we had to go to virtual. So now with the luau and what we got next year, I get a feeling when the word gets out after this year and next year with next year's theme, we'll probably, I think, become probably the as far as experience-driven cigar event in the country. That's my goal. So let's put it that way, whether it happens. Like, that's the direction we're looking.
And that's just my point here, Abe. I mean, you've built not just one but 2 amazing things in your retail empire. Let's call it actually 3, right? I mean, the KMA podcast. I mean, radio show. I mean, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it was the first to hit like actual airwaves. You got syndicated. I mean, you built that into what it is, and then you built the Great Smoke. I mean, you've built all these crazy things. The question I wanted to ask is, again, it pertains to me because I'm a father too. Like, and I've heard us talk about it numerous times. I mean, have you ever been more proud than that moment?
Which moment?
And your daughter last year, Great Smoke.
Oh, have I ever been more proud? That was a very touching and moving moment. I'm not sure as a parent if we weigh proud moments. I mean, you always see movies and TVs. I've never been more proud of you, and maybe I will say that at some point or not. I mean, they're young still, so I don't know if I weigh it like that, because there's lots of proud moments I have with all of them.
Right.
That was, but so as a parent, you could be proud. As a parent, you can be proud of your child. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's significant for them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I played a lot of football games where I just had a great game. I didn't think nothing of it. I knew my dad was very proud, of the game, right? What made that one, I think, extra special was she felt the magic of the day. And it was an eye-opening life experience for her, on top of me just being a proud parent, or my dad, who was there, being a proud grandparent at the time. I think that's what probably makes that moment a little extra special for her. A year later, she's still talking about it. She's trying to get a piece done for this great smoke. I don't know if she'll get around to it. There are a lot of things that just aren't going to make the cut this year, just timing and logistical issues and problem. But she had a big, she goes to a school of the arts, so she's been in middle school. She's in 8th grade now, so she had to audition for her high school of the arts. They only accept so many kids, so she's been working months, very, very hard on a piece. She had her audition last Saturday.
I was gonna say that just happened, right?
Yeah, so she really hasn't had time to think or work on anything outside of prepping herself for that audition. And now we're like 3.5 weeks away, and I'm not sure where she's at with it, but I'm not sure if she'll be ready to do something special this year. She had a great idea. We both had a great idea of what she could do, but you never know. Might be able to make it happen. I mean, I never like to say die unless I have to say die. Mm-hmm. But I like to always have plan B, C, and sometimes plan D ready to go.
Right.
That way he doesn't go through. You're not running around. You already know what you're going to do for B or C. So that's what helps. I think that mentality is why we kind of been successful in not dropping the balls, because I never expect plan A to work. That's just my attitude. Plan A is
work. Yeah, there it is.
I'm always thinking of B and C and what happens if this doesn't happen. And there's always a point of no return, we just had that situation between me and you with Drew Estate. We were waiting on those spray paint can lighters that was supposed to be here January 15th. Mm-hmm. And they're running behind, and I'm not going to ship out 700 packages and then owe 700 lighters to people, So, and it kept showing delays. So I was actually on the phone with the guys from Drew Estate. I'm like, all right, we need to start figuring out what plan B is at this point. Because if it's not here by this time, then we need to start shipping packages. I can't hold up people's packages for a lighter. I mean, a kick-ass cool lighter, so albeit, but can't hold it up. So what's plan B? And as I was waiting for him to get back to me with plan B, it shows up at the warehouse. So it's just those kind of challenges this year.
Yeah, exactly. My plan A would be to take that home with me, but obviously that's not going to work because I'm planning on carrying on and not checking. So my plan B is, of course, just Coop's going to take it and then ship it to me later. It's fine.
Well, getting it this time was fine because the event's still 3 weeks away, but we need to start getting the virtual packages out. They start going out this week.
That's right. Yeah, you were telling us that's right.
I needed at least 700 to start shipping this week. So that's why we need a plan B, but it came in, we're good to go. They'll be going out. Everybody at home will be getting them. People who come down live, we'll have to figure out how to get them home.
That'll be, I'm excited for that. I think that's
we got you one included in the pack, which was a very significant and major move. You'll have to figure out how to get that baby home if you're getting on a plane.
There you go. There's, like we said before, there's a lot of UPS stores and FedEx, Kinko's around the, around the area. So I'm sure it'll be fine.
Not the most problem to have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, definitely. So here's something I was thinking about this, Abe. We talked, I've asked you this question in a variant of ways over the few times that I've interviewed you. And, we talk about your ability to roll with the punches. We talk about your, this empire that you've built and all these things that you've done and the way that you expand things, and you're never quite satisfied. You just keep building and making things better and better. And you always are thinking about that. You've confessed that yourself. Here's something I was thinking about. Have you ever thought, because I said, what's the next, for me, like in my thought process, what's the next evolution of what the Great Smoke could be, right? And so I was thinking about this long and hard. I was like, okay, how can I frame this in a form of a question? And then it occurred to me, I was like, you know what, there is an organization that does something similar. Could you possibly do it? And I was thinking about, you just mentioned the company a second ago, Drew Estate. I was thinking about the barn smoker experience that they've done in so many different areas and everything like that. So like it's the same experience and obviously different, not the exact same, but a unique experience in different locations, different times, everything like that. Have you thought about expanding the Great Smoke to Multiple
Regional.
grades, yeah, multiple grade smokes.
I've been asked this probably for 6 to 8 years now. Probably never going to happen.
Points
That
for my originality, though.
no, no. Look. A lot of people have asked that, and just not just consumers, but people in the industry. But look, here's the reality of the situation is too. To do something like that would make it a full-time job for people. This is not my full-time job, even though I work all year kind of on it. Because, and then this is our home base. This is where we've been for 25 years. I don't want to take my store event in somebody else's area. I don't need to do that. You know, if we're going to go to an area where there's a store or, where there are other cigar shops, they need to learn how to do something for themselves in that area. And I don't need to go and do that. That kind of a project will require tons of effort, time, logistics, and it's just not a direction we ever thought on going. I've had other retailer friends who do these type of events. Some I've been to and I've invited down. I said, look, you got to come down. You could learn a few things by watching how we do our event. And I've invited them, they come down and they've gone back to their hometowns and thrown much better events for it. So I don't see that happening as I own the company. Let's put it that way. Should one day I retire and get bought out and this event continues to grow and we get bought out by a conglomerate, a bigger entity, I could totally see maybe them doing something like that. I mean, Cigar Aficionado's Big Smoke was, I think, at one point in 20 cities.
Yeah, it was pretty massive at one point.
Yeah, at the height of its, popularity and before all the bands started. But I just don't see it happening while I'm at the helm of the ship.
Well, and you bring about a good point with like smoking bans and stuff. I mean, it's becoming increasingly harder and harder to find venues, even outdoor venues, that will allow this type of event to take place, which is just, that's a whole other bag of cats to open. But
it's not easy, and we really, when I tell you, really got lucky with the fairgrounds. It was really, I think it was divine intervention, because the place we were at prior, we literally found out like very shortly before we had to start selling tickets that they didn't want us back the following year, and we were scrambling and we were looking at options and airplane hangars. And I remember we were running around, this was too far and this really wouldn't work. And I didn't go to the fairgrounds right away, even though it's in our backyard and literally would have been perfect. Was at that time, they'd always been affiliated with Smoke Free Florida, which I'm like, they're never having a cigar event. And somebody said, why don't you go to them? And I said, well, we had no other options. Let me give these guys a try. And I didn't know that they weren't working with Smoke Free Florida at the time anymore. And they have not only been very receptive, we've become very good friends with them. They're awesome. They love our event. They bend over really backwards to accommodate us. They're very skilled at prepping and getting ready for these kind of events, because as big as our event is, it's probably one of the smaller events they have there. And it's just been a kudos to them that they've not only just have our event, they're very happy hosting it and have been great hosts. And I see no signs of that changing anytime in the short or long-term future.
So this brings about an interesting subject, and it kind of returns back to one of the questions I just asked you. So, and I just wanted to put this, but I'm not pushing either way, but I wanted to put this thought into the question of, you mentioned how like, and that's really great of you, and that you don't want to necessarily trample on anyone else's like territory by taking the great smoke to multiple areas and stuff. And that says a lot about you. But you kind of brought up the point of, you've invited retailers to come down so that they can make their events better. And our good mutual friend Dave Garofalo always says that anytime that anyone's successful in this business, it's good for this business, right? it doesn't matter, you know, if someone opens next door to you, if they're successful too, that's good. It's good for this industry, right? In some ways. And that's kind of been his mentality. And I know you share similar sentiment to it. So, but I mean, there are people, like you said, you draw a huge national audience to this thing. And I mean, let's face it, Abe, I mean, they go to other places other than Smoke Inn to spend some money when they're not at TGS. And so it's good for the industry wherever you would go and do this. And just playing devil's advocate here, you know.
No, we have people we know because we see it. They don't interact with us at all, except for coming to the Great Smoke, or in the last 2 years, like I've seen now people come up for the second time, but all they've ever ordered from us is a Great Smoke ticket. That's it, which is fine. Still good. You're participating, you're supporting the event, and we're all happy with it. But you know, look, I'm a firm believer in you know, high tide raises all ships. I've been blessed to have so much help from legends in this industry, very wise people, and other retailers as I was coming up. So, you know, I'm never shy to pass knowledge or information on, retailer or manufacturers, really. You know, I just had a guy who, I guess he's had a cigar company for a year and a half. Never. I told him his name was terrible because now I still can't remember it. Never Ash, I think it was. Never Ash. But Chicago guys, he's been out for a couple of years. Shockingly enough, when I meet guys, it ended up being that my uncle was in town and his son is good friends with this guy. So he wanted to pick my brain. I said, bring him in, I'll pick my brain. But shockingly enough, when I meet these guys, they're making cigars at a factory. You know, I never heard of anything. At least this guy, he's at, you know, Ventura's factory. So he's having good cigars made for him, smoked a couple, but, you know, end up spending 2.5 hours talking to him, just trying to give him whatever advice I could on it. And I just feel that's part of the process because I've been blessed enough to have people spend their time doing that with me when I was coming up through the ranks.
It's funny. It's like you're like inside my head a little bit here, Abe. I was saving this question for later. So this is something I wanted to ask you. Again, I've asked you a variant of this question before. In fact, on the last time I had the privilege of interviewing you, I asked you about, you know, who in the industry was like the toughest to build that rapport and that trust with. But this actually brings up an interesting question that I wanted to ask you tonight, which was, you know, we would talk a lot about your successes, you know, and everything like that. So who did you get in early on? Not saying you helped build their brand, or maybe you kind of did, but who did you get in early with that you were like,
the company?
Yeah, like a cigar company that you're like, what's that?
Tatuaje. Pete Johnson, Tatuaje.
Oh, I'm sorry. That my earpiece cut out there. I apologize. Okay.
I think I was Pete's first account in the state of Florida. So I had met Pete at the trade show a couple of times because he was managing a retail shop, and some people who have been following me long enough know this. I had written a pilot episode for a TV show that was going to be called Kiss My Ash. And we ended up going to Hollywood to meet Don Rio and Damon Wayans with the script that we had written. And the meeting was at the Havana Room, and Pete managed the store downstairs. So I walked in not knowing that's where Pete was. And I'm like, whoa, what are you doing here? And he started telling me where I'm at. And I don't know if Pete was distributing them yet. I think maybe he was doing it just out of that store at the time. So he gave me a couple of these sticks, told me about the story and whatnot. And I was very heavily on, I think, Cigar Family's bulletin boards back in the day. All you youngins have no clue what I'm talking about. You know,
I spent some time. I got a little bit of age on me.
Yeah, before there was Facebook and stuff like that, it was bulletin boards. So I was heavy on there, and everybody was talking about how great their cigars is. And I think I was like the first person, and if Pete sees this or hear it, he can confirm. But I think I was like the first person in Florida bringing Tatuaje in, and it just blew up.
Right, and you guys have a very long-standing relationship, and
oh yes, I mean, so long time.
Totally makes sense.
I was probably one of the first guys before he was really known in making brands. When AJ first came out with San Latano, I think I was one of the first retailers who bought in that line. But you make a lot of bad calls too. As many as you make good calls, you'll bring in something and somebody new, and it never takes off and it dies. And that's part of the game. The skill in being a good retailer is not knowing the winners or picking the losers ahead of time, because I've been dead wrong as often as I've been dead right. The skill in being a good retailer is moving the stuff when you're wrong.
Right.
The guys just want to sit on it till eventually it goes out the door, and they drown in inventory, and inventory doesn't move, and there's a value to cash flow. And stuff is not moving, I'll get rid of it as a loss, because the money's more valuable to me to go buy product that'll turn than just sit on my shelves waiting for consumers to buy one stick a year for it to eventually go out the door. So I think that's the real skill of a good retailer.
We'll put a pin in that for 2 seconds here, but yeah, it's interesting because I've mentioned Coop several times on this show, and everyone knows that I partner with him. So I've actually been smoking cigars longer than Coop. Now he's smoked more cigars than me, hands down. Times 100 probably at this point. But I've actually been smoking cigars longer than him. And the brick and mortar that I went to in college was the first account. It was the first proprietor in Texas to carry Tarano. Was the first one to carry Rocky Patel. Was the first one. It was in Fort Worth, Texas. So Padilla. Some really, iconic brands that have kind of stood the test of time that, that I saw, it's some of the, come up for, at least from a Texas aspect. So it's cool. Like you have that connection with Tatuaje. So onto the subject of misses, and I'm not asking you to name names here, but I'll bring up one because it seems to come up quite a bit. At the time, like Tony Bahani was just like fire. Like everyone has this like Tony Bahani story, like how his cigars were so red hot. And
hero in less than 60 seconds.
What's that?
Hero to zero in less than 60 seconds.
I mean, is there a more tragic story in the cigar industry in your years of?
Oh, there's a lot of tragic stories.
I know there's a lot,
but he didn't go away for a long time. I mean, look, a lot of it's karma, a lot of it's ego. Sometimes I think, some people think they fly so high they can never get too close to the sun, and it just sometimes. Listen, I have this conversation with my wife all the time. It's like I always feel like I'm one bad decision away from devastation. Right? I've seen guys with bigger companies than ours and it unraveled over something, So like, that's always like in the back of my head, like getting the warehouse was a big decision for me. And I because that could be the one thing that sets you back. Right. Mm-hmm. So you always have that fear, but, Tony was hotter than hot, came out of nowhere. I mean, blew up the market. I think when he got involved in becoming, and listen, that factory, the Donald Douglas factory in Costa Rica, was making some epic cigars at the time. I mean, epic. Anybody who had any of his first cigars that came out of there, I think the original CAO Aniversario Maduro. Mickey Peg is, I know, chit-chatting from All Saints Cigars on here. He might confirm for me.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right too. Yeah, some good stuff.
The original Aniversario first came out was out of that factory. Then he started getting involved in the manufacturing side. I can't remember the whole story, but I think he bought into that factory, and because now he was part owner of the factory, he wanted the CEO cigars meeting there. And I think I remember that year, God rest his soul, Chano Ozinger was running around from manufacturer trying to figure out who he wanted to work with to have his cigars being made. Because at the time, the CEO Anniversario was stellar. I mean, it was a very hot cigar. So, he's one of them, and look, there are guys who, I mean, I think Tony was a victim of probably a lot of bad decisions. And then there's guys who just never get there, off the top of my head, Gene Arganese, great guy, came to Florida. He visited me in Florida. I knew him as a consumer before he really tried to pitch me in cigars, took part in some of our events. And then okay, here's a guy who's trying to make it. We bought it in and never really never. I mean, I even went down to his factory with some of the guys from shop. You know, you try to, you hope. I like underdogs, so you hope some really brands make it out of the water. And you know, he's a guy who never did. I mean, one of the best jokes he ever said was, "I literally was at the trade show with him one year. He's like, oh man, you know, the cigar industry's made me a millionaire." And I knew he wasn't doing that well. I'm like, really? He's like, oh yeah, because before I got in, I was a multimillionaire.
Right. It's
So,
it's the joke about
right.
becoming making $1 million in the industry. It's
He was the first one who told me that joke. So
that's
I don't know.
funny. Oh, he's
Or,
like, oh, so everyone's falling for him. That makes sense. Oh, that's funny. No,
but
for me, one of the, I was, look, it's not like he's not still around. He's still kind of doing things in the industry, and he continues to plug away. And hats off to the guy. I really like him a lot. I've been a big fan of his forever. But one of the biggest tragic stories is Sam LaCia, because Sam's a great guy. He was a really, he's an innovator. He loves creating, new nose tobacco. Really, he came up with nub. He coined a term that we all use today. It's part of cigar smoking lexicon. You smoke something down to the nub. And it's not just a brand. It's like, it's part of our everyday vocabulary.
Sam's a real good human being, decent guy, hardworking. I think Sam was just a victim of a bad agreement. And it took him out of the spotlight for a while. And then he got back in with cigars. I think it was Luchadores.
Yeah, the Luchadors, those were some, I love them,
We bought him in. Sam's a good guy. He tried to help, guys like that out. We bought him in. It never really took off. And I think now he's got a pretty successful cigar club that he's running.
Yeah, the Stogie Bird. Yeah. So, he's still around. So it's not like he didn't, obviously didn't meet the same fate that Bahani did or anything like that. So, he's still around, but it's still, in my mind, like, because I bought into him pretty early, and I'm still a huge fan of his. Like, I just feel like Sam's not having the career that he should have, after all the blood, sweat, and tears that he put in and stuff. And some of that's on him and some of that's on just circumstance and stuff. But I'll always be a fan of his. I think what he's done in this industry and what he's done for this industry is, completely above board. The fact that he doesn't like pickles is just an agree to disagree thing with me. So, but, blows my mind, but whatever. Teach their own.
You have to be very more selective in bringing in and trying new stuff, because with retail stores, you're really tight on linear footage. You only have so much space. And with the warehouse, it's really opened it up a lot for us now to bring in stuff. There's a lot of stuff we have in the warehouse that is not in our humidors and our retail doors. Probably may never make our humidor and retail doors. But we're very excited. We bought a lot of new companies, a lot of new brands. ADV is one of them, which is the next TGS limited edition release. El Artista, All Saint Cigars, Mickey Peg's line that's in there now. We brought in a lot of new lines from existing companies that we're dealing with. But these are companies that we did. Rockefeller.
That was another one I was going to mention. The original iteration of Rockefeller was just, Kevin's done such a great job with that. I don't want to disparage Kevin at all, because he's really brought that brand back, and I know you carry him. So
yeah, we bought in a lot of new companies that we've never dealt with before, and I was very excited because when we were able to work with Henderson to make it really didn't start out as a TGS release. It was a project. Look, the next, so we made the 5 limited releases for the Great Smoke, and we just did the Big Delicious, the 4th one, and the next one's February 9th. And this was kind of a cool project because, I think it's the first ever retailer collaboration. So, I'm good friends with Ronnie over at Secreto Cigar Bar in Detroit, and during COVID, we kind of concocted this idea where we're going to do like a retailer collaboration, and just like many other projects, it got put on the back burner and it was slow, and then we get distracted and we start working on it, and then these cigars got made and the other half of the project didn't even get worked on. And so it was kind of cool that we kind of just said, hey, let's just make this a TGS release. So this cigar, which I really believe is a sleeper out of all 5 of the Great Smoke releases, only because it's probably the one that people maybe have the least experience with, or known as a company. I mean, Steve Saka makes something out everybody wants it. It's just obvious, Carlito makes something everybody wants. And all these guys have sold very extremely well. But this guy was really new to us as a company, really new to the industry as far as making his own brands. So the Sociedad Secreta cigar that we have, which the press release came out this past week,
right,
is literally a retailer collaboration, and I think it's going to be this project, because like I said, we started this really during COVID, so we had cigars. So I've had the opportunity to actually give these out to people to see their responses and what they thought of it is, and everybody really has kind of been on board saying, "Wow!" So I'm very excited about this release. There was 450 boxes made, and they'll go on sale during our virtual event with Henderson Ventura on February 9th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. I absolutely love Henderson's blending style. And this isn't saying anything about the other TGS releases, because I'm, of course, super excited about all of them. But that's the one that I'm stoked about, because I mean, like the last few years, I haven't had anything that he's made where I was like, no, that's just not for me. Like, I've smoked everything and I'm like, damn, this is like, everything is so good. He made my cigar of the year, the La Barra Ricochet Crew Mexi Sol from 2020. I had another cigar. The Queen's Pearls was on my list this past year. I mean, just his stuff's fire, man. I love it. It's fantastic. That's the one I'm excited about.
I really find it like cool that we bought him in recently. We did a TGS cigar with him, and then his cigar is the #3 consensus cigar of the year, from the Half Wheel Boys. So, I think we put our money on a good horse with Henderson Ventura, and when these beautiful purple-looking boxes with the purple band, which is my wife's favorite color, purple, when it hits the street and people start smoking them, I'm very excited to see what the feedback is going to be from a lot of our fans out there.
Be good stuff for sure. So Abe, I wanted to kind of go through a somewhat of a rapid fire session. We were talking a little bit about ideas earlier. And so I've kind of titled this section "This or That." So this might be something that you've done at TGS before. Maybe it's on your board. Maybe it's been mentioned. Maybe it's never been mentioned. So I'm going to give you one option. It's this or that to put into a TGS event. So it's just your personal opinion. And you can take it wherever you go. It's like you think it's going to be better.
Yeah, put it into a TGS event? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Fireworks or a laser show?
Oh. Laser show.
Oh, okay. So a little unconventional. What's the if you just like laser shows over fire, you think fireworks are overdone, or?
Fireworks are loud and smoky, and you only get a few moments of because the rest is all just filler. The big thing. Anybody who's ever seen Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you see a laser show like that, lasers are badass.
Yeah, that's true. No, you
got a laser show, man, or a Pink Floyd. Lasers are bad. So yeah, I'd go with lasers.
Yeah, good point there. Okay. A entire fleet of taxi cabs carrying TGS advertisement driving around town, or for an entire month, or on a NASCAR hood for the Daytona 500.
So, I'm really loving this segment because you give me a lot of good ideas for future Great Smokes. So this
You're
is
welcome.
actually a very, very beneficial segment for me. Cabs, 1,000%.
Okay.
Yeah, dude. No one's watching a car at 100 miles an hour really seeing one of 800 logos on a car. It doesn't.
Okay. The world's most popular event. I just thought, hey, throw it out there.
I know, but listen to me. Other than STP Oil and Home Depot, I can't remember one logo on any NASCAR ever.
DuPont car, Jeff Gordon, but that's just a personal favorite of mine.
There you go.
Okay, a barbecue cook-off with some of the world's most popular barbecue restaurateurs or chefs or whatever you want to call them, or a chili cook-off with the same people.
Grill Masters.
Grill Masters.
Grill Masters. Barbecue.
Okay.
Barbecue. Come on, man.
I actually had
That's
this written down, and you brought this up
minor
earlier.
league and major league, you know.
I see. I'm a big chili person and big barbecue. I'm from Texas, so like both was a home run for me. So it doesn't matter which one you said on that one. So
I just want to go back to the cabs really quick because I want to defend my position as a marketing guy, right? A bunch of cabs driving out in a local area where 80% of your attendance coming from will be more effective than millions of people all over the world who see it and will never ever come to the event.
it's a fair point. No, it's a fair point. So this is funny because I had this written down even before you even said anything earlier. No, it's not helicopters, but it's close. At TGS, a skydiving or bungee jumping activation station.
Oh, bungee jumping. Bungee jumping. Yeah, I mean skydiving. What are you gonna do? You gonna wait? Oh wait, I think I see him coming. Yeah, bungee jumping. Bungee jumping works. Bungee jumping, slingshot, one of those things. Those will work.
a African safari miniature zoo or a falconry exhibit by some of the world's leadingest falcon. I don't even know what they're called. The people who do falconry.
Buccaneers? I don't know.
Yeah, falconeers. I don't know. Some of these ideas are half baked, but I'm just like putting stuff together here.
Yeah, that's that cool. But I love the safari theme. That may have to get added to the board. I like that. That's actually doable. We might do a safari theme.
I was thinking Tiger King, the whole thing that's kind of sprouted out because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah, safari right here on Southern Boulevard. That idea might make it to what we call the big board.
Okay. Just make sure you vet the background of the people. Otherwise, my wife's going to kill me for suggesting that. So, my wife's a zookeeper, so that's the reason behind that. So.
We'll have real animals there, but
yeah,
this could be a good theme.
So, okay, and then this one's a little lame, but just I kind of was just thinking for fun. But TGS socks or boxers?
That's actually a tough one. Both are appreciated by both sexes. Women wear boxers and socks. That's an either or. That's a gimme. That's a. If I had to choose one, boxers. Oh God!
The ladies would also be all over that too.
I agreed with Quentin. Now I feel bad.
What did he say? I missed it.
Quentin, boxers.
Boxers. Oh, nice. He said boxers. Okay. All right. Home run derby or free throw contest?
Free throw contest. Not too many people can hit a baseball.
Fair point.
Anybody can throw a basketball. Not saying that you can make it, but more people can interact with a free throw contest than hit a baseball. Hitting a baseball is hard, man. Go to a batting cage. It ain't that easy.
I can vouch for that for sure. It is not easy at all. Okay, and the last question of the this or that segment: would you rather have the? Okay, so TGS is always this time of year. Like you said, it's a beautiful time of year. That's why you picked it for the state of Florida. So would you, if you had to, would you rather have TGS in July or August?
No.
I know it's kind of like out of the frying pan into the fire. So which month, if you had to pick?
Oh, July or August is the same thing. That's not even picking. I thought it was July or August or February.
Well, yeah, I know you're picking February, so it doesn't matter. Because like you said, you picked this time of year because it's perfect.
You should have said fall or spring. That would have worked out better. That's a hard choice. July.
Okay,
or
fall or spring then. Okay, you picked the question. So fall or spring then.
I like the spring.
Okay. What's the main? Okay, because I'm not from Florida. What's the main detractor from both those times of year, fall and spring?
What's the difference? You mean?
Like what's the worst that could happen in the fall, and what's the worst that could happen in the spring?
Here's the problem. So, hurricane season isn't really over till October, which puts you into November and December, which is not really the fall anymore. So you avoid hurricane season. No one wants to mess with Thanksgiving and the holidays. So, February was. I mean, it was actually accidentally picked when we did our first one because I thought someone was going to beat us out to do it. So I really concocted like the first great smoke like in 2 months, 2.5 months. And February was the soonest we could do it. But ideally, logistically looking at it, going back, it ended up being perfect for us. So
I think it's great. It's like just it's enough distance from the holidays.
yeah,
And then it's before it gets, super hot and uncomfortable for an outdoor event,
weather's good, and then it's still cold in a lot of places, so it's a great reason for a lot of people to get out of town for a weekend and come somewhere sunny, which is always been what a lot of people do. They'll perfect time of year to get out of your snowstorm or whatever else you got going on and catch some Florida warmth.
Well, perfect. Well, Abe, thanks for participating in this or that. I just thought it would be fun to kind of do it. Yeah.
I like before your show.
No, that's the first time I've ever done it. So I might bring it back and yeah. So if I ever see any of these ideas come to fruition, I'll just I'll bask in the glory of that. I was there at the beginning. So so speaking of choices, that always leads us into our one must go segment. So it's a little bit different, but sort of the same thing. Brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Abe and Byron lines. So smoke one today and start living united. So Abe, let's shift gears here. We've been talking a lot about Florida, talking about a lot about the great smoke, but last time we had you on Cigar Group Primetime Specialist, we talked about food from your great homeland of Chicago. So I'm going to take your great homeland of Chicago and look at it a different way. And since we're talking about the fairgrounds and a venue, Chicago is home to some pretty iconic sports venues, particularly in the time that you grew up, the 80s and 90s. The United Center, home of 6 NBA championships, the Chicago Bulls. Soldier Field, I mean, legendary. I'm a Packers fan, but you got to respect Soldier Field. And so, and then for the third choice, I'm actually going to leave it up to you because, while Wrigley Field's iconic, I don't know if you're a South Side guy or not. So I don't know if you're a War White Sox fan.
Man.
What's
Cubby.
that?
Cubby.
You're a Cubby fan. Okay, so Wrigley Field. Okay, so even better because those are 3 iconic sports venues. So one's got to go. What is it? Is it Wrigley Field, Soldier Field, or the United Center?
United Center.
Did you ever go to any of those games, or were you were down in Florida by that time, or?
No, all of them. I was blessed enough to see Michael Jordan play multiple times.
Oh,
man. I remember the old stadium before the United Center too. So many Blackhawks games there. I think it was easier for me to say United Center because it feels less historic for me. It's a newer arena, newer build. Soldier Field is so iconic there on Lakeshore Drive, and I spent many games bundled up as much as we can, watching cold and blizzards, and you can't do nothing ever to Wrigley Field. It's one of my favorite baseball stadiums in the country. So, yeah, United Center, that would be the one that goes.
So just to return it, because I want to talk about the old. So again, this is how limited my memory of it is. So what was the old stadium called before the United Center? Where did the Bulls play before that? Do you remember? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just curious.
It was called the Chicago Stadium? I can't remember.
So
Chicago Stadium, maybe? I can't remember. It was literally like next door where they built the new one.
Like I said, I'm putting you on the spot there. I apologize. But no, so okay, so the United Center goes just because those. I figured it would be just because the historic implication there. But shifting to your baseball allegiance and everything, I'm always curious about this from people from Chicago. Is there a mutual respect, or is it a like Jets and the Sharks type thing of like, no, you're a South Side guy, or you're member of the Wrigley Nation? Like what does that look like in Chicago?
there's hardcore people. I mean, I've never been that way. I consider myself a Cub fan. You know, do I not root for the Sox when they're having a winning season or gone to the World Series? No, I absolutely do. So, but hey, I just identify myself as a North Sider and a Cub fan. Um, I, those, if I was going to say, hey, let me go catch a baseball game this weekend, I go to a Cubs game. I would never even think of saying, hey, let's go to Comiskey Park to watch the Sox play. So, um, yeah, for me, it's not that way. I guess for some people, it probably is in Chicago, hardcore. I mean, I remember a funny story. I had an Airbnb, went home to visit my family once in Chicago, beautiful house. And they had a nice basement, which, we don't have here in Florida. And the basement was kind of a little game room area and a big TV. My kids I spent a lot of time down in the basement. But he had 4 iconic logos like on his wall. It was, the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, and the Sox. So I went out and bought a little Cubby placard and I put it right over the Sox. Before we left, nothing perfect, just enough to say ha ha. And I think I never heard from him, but I think he appreciated it. Or he might have told me that would call me a cocksucker. Who knows?
That's funny. Oh man, that's hilarious. Yeah, I've always wondered that. We don't have basements here in Texas either. So when people talk about basements, I think it's funny because
I grew up
I don't know what that is.
Chicago. I mean, that's where we live 90% of the time is growing up. We go to the basement.
So, well, I appreciate you participating in that one. It was a little bit easier than I anticipated, but as I kind of thought about it in retrospect, I figured it might be because of the iconic nature of the other 2 areas and everything. But did you ever go to a White Sox game like growing up? I mean, have you been to a couple? Okay.
Yeah. I ended up going once or twice, maybe. Yeah, I remember when I was growing up, White Sox Stadium. I mean, I don't know how it is now. I'm sure it's changed, but it was literally right across the street from Community Green, which was like the worst projects like in Chicago. I mean, it wasn't like the nicest area to go watch a baseball game. So I mean, unless there was a big game or something going on, but like Wrigley Field was like, in downtown Yuppieville, like you're driving down suburbia, you're on a regular road, there's brick houses here, and all of a sudden, boom, oh, where did this baseball stadium come out of? Like in the middle of the suburbs. So yeah, completely different environment. So no, being a North Sider, we didn't make it down to Comiskey Park that often. I might have caught 1 or 2 Sox games maybe in my whole life.
That's always been like this, and I've been to enough stadiums in my life. That's one of the things that I really kind of like is where people like kind of hide these stadiums where they get tucked away in cities, like, because like when you see them on TV, they're covered by the blimp and they're kind of larger than life, and you feel like they're like put on this pedestal. But in a lot of places, they're kind of tucked away. Like going to Coors Field in Denver, to see a Rockies game, it's you kind of take some back roads to get to it a little bit through downtown, and it's just kind of not off the beaten path, but it's just kind of tucked around something, and it's almost hidden. If you blink, you'd miss it, and it's interesting.
Yeah, everybody can remember the iconic rooftops around Wrigley Field, right? But that's
right.
Wrigley Field. You're really driving down a neighborhood, and then boom, there's like a ballpark in the middle of nowhere. Like it's crazy. And it's right off the L, easy to get to. But I went to Chicago to visit family about a couple of years ago, and I ended up taking my kids to their first baseball game, Cubs game. See, took them to a Cubs game, and I didn't recognize it. It became so commercialized. It doesn't have that neighborhood feel. I felt like I was in the heart of downtown Chicago when we got off. I took them on the electric train, and when we got off the electric train, I'm like, "What is this?" It's become very commercialized. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, the area around it's still, but everything is just, it's still in the suburbs, exactly where it's at, but everything's just the outside, the shops around it, and everything has become very commercialized now. So it doesn't feel the same as when I was growing up.
We're probably going to pick up our tradition. My wife and I have been going to one stadium a year, for the past few years, and COVID kind of derailed it for a couple of years. And I think we're going to pick it back up again. But one of our coolest experiences, we went to Seattle to watch at the time it was Safeco. Now it's T-Mobile Stadium. But like we totally scored on the hotel. It was literally across the street. We crossed the street and went into the stadium. I mean, it was fantastic. Um, Unbelievable. And we went on Memorial Day weekend, and I was freezing. Um, uh, it was like the coldest game I've ever been to, because I grew up in Texas, so you go to baseball games, it's always hot as hell. But it was the coldest game I've ever been to. The high that day was like it was like 50 on Memorial Day
That's
weekend. That was cold so, for me. Unbelievable. But awesome. Well, so I mean that takes us into our next fun segment, which every week we spotlight a nonprofit or charity of my guest choosing. And full disclosure, I kind of picked for Abe, but I figured he wouldn't mind, considering the Great Smoke does a lot of work with this foundation. And Abe, you've been honored by this foundation as well, the Kids Cancer Foundation. What a terrific organization that you've been working with for the past few years.
yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the organization and what drew you to partner with them years ago that's kind of built into this great relationship?
Um, so the Great Smoke event has always been tied to a charity. It was from day one of the few things I could do as a company to find a way to at least give some back. I mean, we do a lot of things throughout the year for military, but just it was nice to have tied this event to a charity. It's changed over the years. Make a Wish, Home Safe, um, hospice 1 year or 2 years. But a while back, I can't remember how long ago it was, but the Kids Cancer Foundation, I guess, was working with another retailer in the area to do a toy drive, and they just didn't do. I guess they weren't having success or they weren't into it. I don't know the whole story, but they came to me. Somebody recommended that you check us out. So we did the toy drive, and I just didn't want to put a box out and say, "Hey, here's a toy drive." I went to some of my friends in the industry and said, "Look, you got any cool, real, rare stuff? I mean, I'm happy to buy it for you from you, but I want to do this toy drive for the Kids Cancer Foundation." They came to me, and I got some really, really cool stuff. Um, because I've kind of done this a few times. If you're going to raise money for charity, if you find a way to kind of give people a chance to maybe get something cool out of it, it's always a plus than just donating money. So I can't remember all the manufacturers were involved, but I got some really, really cool stuff. And for every toy you donated that was over $20 at any one of our retail locations, so we put up these big boxes. You got a raffle entry, and then people started hearing about it, and then we added something online where you could buy, like it was like 20 or increments of 20, or you get like $100, and you got the same amount of raffle entries. And we just collected the money, and we'd send Emily at the time would go out to Target and just do a bunch of Christmas shopping. And they were so blown away at the first year because there were some really good prizes we got. So after we raised all the money and Emily went, I remember she was like 5 or 6 shopping carts. She took a picture, of her at Target bringing back gifts to the stores. They needed to rent like a U-Haul to come get all the gifts. They were just blown away. And at that time, I said, you know what? So they invited me to this Christmas dinner they did. And, I got 4 kids, so kids are always close to my heart. And going to this Christmas dinner and really meeting some of these kids who have cancer, it was a very moving experience. They're not whining. They don't have the attitude like life has shortchanged them. Typical responses adults would have in situations like that. They're very resilient and strong, and it's just mind-boggling, you know, to have seen them, and it really, really moved me. And then so we ended up making the Kids Cancer Foundation the recipient of our great the fundraising aspect that we do of the Great Smoke. I think it's been that way now for maybe 6 years, 6 or 7 years, and I mean that's how we met the fine people there, and they've been very grateful. And 1 year they awarded me the Hero of the Year award,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty badass. I'm very proud of that. I mean any organization is going to call you Hero of the Year. I don't care how big or how small. It's cool, and it's one of my most memorable accomplishments. And it sits on my little shelves of my museum in my office. But that's how we got involved with the Kids Cancer Foundation. And every year we contribute a nice amount of money for them, and they're always super grateful and awesome. And typically they'll attend, and I'm not sure. I know we reached out to them this year. I think they'll be at the event this year. They're really nice people.
It's fantastic. I mean, what an honor too for you to be named the hero of the year and stuff. You
It's pretty
you
badass.
you mentioned about the resilience of children. I think this is important. This kind of segue to kind of go into, you know, one of the most, there's two magical traits in children that as adults we look back and we lose somewhere along the way. And one of them is faith, and the other one is hope.
Yeah.
And it's, call it life getting to us, or calling it growing up, or whatever you want to stick on it. But for some way, for some reason, like we kind of lose it. I think it's just too much reality has hit us over the years or something like that. But there's something magical about that with children.
We get cynical and we get bitter,
Mhm.
and as we get older, we get definitely more cynical. But I mean, these kids didn't want you to look at them any other way than they're just normal.
Mhm.
And uh it was very moving. It really was. And to be able to do toy drives for them and get a bunch of toys and help them out, so that's one less thing those parents got to worry about during the holidays, and some
Yeah.
of them who can't afford it, it's great. And we're very, very honored to be able to work with that. I mean, look, almost all charities are a good cause. You just got to find one, pick one, and run with it. And this one just touched me, and I've stuck with it.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So I put the links in the chat there. They'll be in the show notes later on. Check out the Kids Cancer Foundation. Kids Cancer kidscancerfoundation.org is where you can, or I think that's actually incorrect. kidscancerf.org, excuse me. For more information, you can also donate off the link I put in the chat as well. That'll also be in the show notes later on too. I really encourage, and Abe doesn't know that I'm doing this, but I really encourage you all to give. And you don't have to do this, but in later tonight, as I do every single week with these charities and nonprofits that we feature, there'll be a small donation from me and my wife in honor of you, Abe. We're going to be giving later tonight. So I
Look,
do,
charity
yeah.
and fundraising, there are people who do that for a living, and God bless them. Fundraising and charity stuff, man, it takes a certain breed to go out and do that kind of work. And look, it's just one of those things that, and I always tell everybody, look, if you're blessed enough that you could give and not feel it or know it's gone, then it's nothing. But it's nothing ever anyone should ever feel like, oh, I got to do this, especially if you can't do it. It's not one of those
Mhm.
things. If you're at this point in life where you're blessed and you're fortunate enough and you could give back, I really believe the world is very a lot of karma. I believe in a lot of karma. I believe like what comes around goes around. What you put out in the universe comes back in the universe. And you know, if you can, you can. And if you can't, it's nothing to be ashamed about.
Yeah, I think and what's really great about this is there's no minimum. If you go to Kids Cancer Foundation, um, they spotlight you can be an everyday hero by donating a gold donation, which is $1,000, which trust me, I understand money doesn't grow on trees, all the way
Yeah.
down to 50, which is the everyday hero. Or you can do another amount. There's no minimum. It's $1. It isn't, and that's what I think was what I've really tried to focus on with this. And this is why I usually spotlight the charity on Facebook, because Facebook will allow you to raise money for charities and nonprofits for the most part. Some of them you just can't. They're not linked to it, but Facebook will donate 100% of the profits. This isn't like GoFundMe or another third party entity that takes a cut. It's for all the flack that Facebook catches,
Right.
you
That's a
know,
cool. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool that if you can post it. And I'll try to tag it on there, but you can donate through Facebook, and 100% of the proceeds go directly to the foundation, which is fantastic. Or obviously you go to the website through the link, and obviously 100% of it goes through there too. So really really fantastic. And again, no minimums. Makes every cent count. And it obviously goes to a great foundation that and a great cause that you've done a lot of work with. So
Thank
thanks
you,
for
man.
that. Appreciate it. No,
Seriously.
absolutely, it's my pleasure. Very small part in what all the work that you've done for it. So um So just a final bit, a couple of questions here, Abe, as we kind of wrap up tonight's show. And again, I can't thank you enough for being on. I know my show's on late on Sundays, and especially with with it being Eastern time, this is some talked about family a lot tonight. It's time
I think
away
the
from your
kids
family. I appreciate it.
are already in bed at this time because it's the school year, so it's not a big deal. You just took me away from Brandy, so you'll have to answer to her later.
Again, my apologies. So, um, so just a couple of fun questions. So when did the bets thing start? The signing of the dollar bills.
Sal Fontana. That was
Okay.
one of Sal Fontana. If you don't know who Sal Fontana is, Sal Fontana basically worked forever with Carib imported cigars that eventually became Camacho cigars and was in the cigar industry for, I don't know, 50 years, maybe 40 years. I mean, it was a long time. Um, Basically, he mentored Christian Aroa from when Christian was a child. He mentored me since I was 26 years old. And we were very, very close, and we spent a lot of time. Sal would visit my shop 2 to 3 times a week regularly, and we just would, want to bet? You want to bet? And so he'd always say that to me, and he'd lose, and I'd never get nothing for it. I mean, he's got nothing to show for it because I'm not going to bet anything significant with him, whatever. So literally, like one time I said to him, I said, "Listen, let's make a deal. We'll bet, but if you're wrong, you have to sign the bill. You were right, Abe. You were right. I was wrong, and you have to sign it, Sal Fontana." And he agreed. And next thing I know, I probably had like 6 or 7 bills from him. God rest his soul. And it just went on. I got bills from Marvin, from other people, Marvin Samuel, other people in the industry, and it just collected. And it's like a stack like that thick. So that's kind of my little I don't know, it's a hobby or a cool little thing, but one of these days I'm probably gonna frame it or do something with all the bills.
That's awesome. Speaking of Marvin, how fucking cool was that, man? I know you were at the premiere at the
I
Jewish
was in
Film
the movie.
Festival.
I was in the movie, so that was kind of super cool. Um, no, kudos to Marvin, man, because that was a hell of a project. I know how long he worked on it, what he went through. He was on the Fuente Marifel show earlier today, um, and to see that come to fruition and be at the world premiere of it was kind of cool. And you know, it was kind of cool just having experience of being on a set during filming with some very cool actors too. I mean, Judd Hirsch is a guy I grew up watching on Taxi. We forget Independence Day and all that stuff. I remember him from Taxi, whatever. And everybody remembers Rudy and
Mhm.
Rings with Sean Astin. Sean Astin was really cool. That's how I actually met Sean Astin. He was nice enough. We did that tribute video during a digital experience for the Great Smoke last year. It was through Marvin's movie and going down there and filming for a day. But kudos to Marvin. I mean, that's a major, major accomplishment. And he's got a stellar cast, and the movie was very entertaining and touching. And hopefully he'll continue. I think he really enjoyed it, and hopefully he'll continue on in this new adventure and this new career for him. It's a long way from making cigars, completely different. You know, different. I mean, he was always a storyteller at events, and that's kind of what Marvin was known for. So I guess it was a natural segue for him.
Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't. I mean, it was completely out of left field, but at the same time, it wasn't so far fetched for me. I didn't know. I had no idea what he was working on. I mean, I had no idea what was going on. I knew obviously, it'd been years since he had been with Drew Estate, and so I was like, I was wondering what obviously time because him and I connected for numerous. He always came and did our Drew Estate events at Michael's Tobacco in here in Texas, and so I got to know him, over a brief time over a couple of years, and just we really connected, and I haven't been able to connect back, and I was like, I was wondered what happened, and then all of a sudden this popped up, and I was like, wow, this is fantastic.
Now, so no, I'm just teasing.
Um, Now you need to talk Marvin into getting you an IMDb credit. That's what needs to happen next. Were you like an extra, or did you have any speaking roles? I haven't obviously seen the film or anything like that. So
We all had speaking roles. It was like a cigar manufacturer retailer scene, but it was really funny. We ended up spending probably 30 minutes plus, maybe 40, shooting the scene in different variations to range to it, and like the dialogue from nobody ended up making that scene. Though Marvin claims that my line is heard, but where we saw the world premiere wasn't like in a nice theater, or it was an outdoor theater. The audio was a little rough.
Yeah, it always is on outdoor stuff.
Because it was
So
an outdoor theater setting and whatnot. So he claims that my line can be heard when his wife's answering the phone, but I couldn't hear it. I'll have to watch it digitally sooner to see if I can actually hear my line or not. And
yeah,
there were no, it was a completely ad-libbed thing from everybody. We just were supposed to be like ourselves.
right. Yeah, I'm a big Judd Hirsch fan too, so that was really cool that he was the star, and of course, like you said, Sean Astin, Rudy, who doesn't know anything about that, so good times. This little diatribe there, but so I guess the other question I was going to ask you before we kind of wrap things up with our curveball segment for the night. So if you could have, go ahead. I'm
Stuart,
sorry.
question, Stuart. The name of the movie is I, Mordecai.
Correct. Yes, I Mordecai.
I,
Yeah,
Mordecai. They had 2 showings here in Miami. I don't know when the next showing is. As Marvin gets more information, when it become more accessible to the public, we're going to have him on KMA. He already said he'll come on. We'll get the news out there. But the movie's called I, Mordecai, and Mordecai was his father's name. So that's where that comes from.
yeah, it's kind of a biopic,
It is my biopic, yes.
Yeah, so it's fantastic that he gets to tell his story in such terrific fashion and everything. It's pretty sensational. And yeah, as I was reading more about it, I was like, oh, that's cool. The name of the main characters, and then I started reading more. I was like, oh my gosh, this is his story. This is so, like I said, it was completely out of left field for me. I had no idea what was going on, and the fact that it was
The
brought out was
movie's
fantastic.
about his father's life, but Marvin was part of his father's life, right? What was going on in Marvin's life was incorporated, obviously, into the movie as well. So it's not really about a movie about Marvin and his cigar life as much as it is about his father. But his father, the father's son was part of Mordecai's life, and what was going on with Marvin and his business was part of Mordecai's life at the time. So a really entertaining movie. You get a chance, I really urge you all to go watch it. There's not a lot of good stuff about there that had any kind of relation or themed when it comes to cigars. So as anybody who really appreciates the cigar lifestyle or culture, you should run out and support stuff like this.
Absolutely. 100%. So this is a little bit of I don't know how to characterize this question, but I've been to a lot of events, and I've heard this phrase come up quite a bit from manufacturers or reps or brand owners, retailers, have said, the best compliment that I was ever given was X. And that's not the question I'm going to ask, but a similar path. Again, the whole point of tonight's conversation was to talk about the amazing experience that's coming up here in less than a month, the Great Smoke 2022, the last luau. First of all, are tickets still available? Let's point that out.
Without a doubt, there are live tickets still available. Virtual, I'm not sure because it's been the weekend. I haven't been in the office. There was some as of Friday, but it's getting close, and wherever it's at, I'm pretty sure before this week's out, it'll be gone. They'll be over. So
especially with the packs going out. So yeah, you had to cut it off.
Landing, forget about it. That's when it goes nuts. So the virtual tickets, there were still some as of Friday, I believe, and the in person, they're still available. It's not getting close to being, during every year, the Great Smoke will typically sell, believe it or not, 150 or 200 tickets the day of the event at the door. It's like insane.
Quentin with the great post, posting the link directly to TGS. So good job, Quentin. Appreciate it.
My man, Quentin. He's trying to work off that $20 he owes me. Quentin owes me a signed $20 bill, actually.
Yeah, apparently there's a bet on this show, and I'm it's terrible because I know what the bet is now. Thanks, Quentin. So I don't like, I'm either going to let you down, Quentin, or I'm going to let Abe down. And this is what a fucking terrible position he's put me in.
On this bet, I don't know nothing about what you're talking
Oh,
about.
he put, I guess it wasn't with you, it was with somebody else, but he put I guess he put an over under bet on how long the show would be.
Oh, okay.
So, well, I guess I'm either going to disappoint him or disappoint whoever he bet with. So thanks, Quentin, asshole. No, I'm just kidding, buddy. But so I lied. Actually, I had two more questions before our curveball segment. So the question I asked is if someone could give you the perfect compliment to, you know, that they attended TGS, they came up to you and said X, what is that? Like, what do you want them to experience? If they come to in person, what do you want that experience to be when they come up and say, thanks, Abe, X? What do you want that response to be? You know?
Listen, first off, I get it every year. And, you know, like I said, my hand is bruised at the end of the day after all the handshaking of a Great Smoke experience. And look, my goal every time we do something like this is I want them to be so moved that they're talking about it for at least a month. And I know we're successful when I see that same person come back next year and he brings two friends. You know, I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm running around with like a chicken with no head, but I'm not like no one knows where I am. I mean, I'm running around. So I get stopped, pulled over, talked to, reminded, hey, you remember me from last year? So um, I don't know if it's a compliment, you know. I mean, I guess the best compliment is at the end of the event when I ask if everybody had a good time and they go nuts. I mean, I guess that's the response you want to have. So yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it's the same thing we get almost every year. I mean, obviously, you know, it's really funny because you'll laugh when I say this, but I'm more tuned in to when people aren't happy with something, right?
Okay.
I mean, I know what's good. You know, I know you got in good, the logistics is good, so the deal is good. So hearing all that stuff, it kind of really kind of doesn't stick deep. But if something goes wrong or somebody has a problem or something could be really improved on, that's stuff I'm really like all the antennas go up and we pay attention to it because and we have a meeting every year the Monday after because we write all this stuff down so we don't forget. You
Oh,
know,
nice.
oh yeah, we brainstorm. Like I think from 2020 and then there was a digital experience. So it didn't happen from 2020, there was like 68 points that we had written down right after the Great Smoke of things that we need to improve on, change, or make better the following year.
So one of those things, I'm just going to spare you the dignity of having to explain it again, even though you probably will. So anyone out there listening, if you can't get one of the limited TGS cigars, we're sorry in advance. That's not what TGS is about. Sorry you didn't get it, but there are a lot of people who want these cigars, and if you can't for some reason get it, sorry. Don't know
Well,
what else to tell you.
Here's what's going to happen, right? So with these things, look, so one of the things we did last year is like when I started concocting the digital experience and how we wanted to do digital experience, I was trying to find ways to make this stand out as extra exciting because I knew people would say a virtual cigar event, you know. So I really need to think. So I thought, let me reach out to some of these great manufacturers, see who has the time to put in to make something special for the Great Smoke. And we had 6 great guys work with us, make awesome stuff. And what a big hit it ended up being. We never expected to sell out in 5 minutes or anything. So, and that was a big disappointment for a lot of people because, like, well, I only bought my ticket to get the limited release. Well, you should never do that. You should buy a ticket because you get a ticket, and then your chance of getting a limited release is a perk. So there
Right.
was some stuff I had to deal with immediately after the event of people who were disappointed and whatnot. So
There's
and
enough
here's
value in that ticket that has nothing to do with the ability to buy the limited cigar. Like, just
right. I mean,
I'll say it if you won't.
you're buying a ticket, you're getting $450 plus worth of stuff for your ticket. The rest is just ancillary stuff after that.
Mm-hmm.
So so we did everything in our power this year to rectify that. So I'm going to call it right now in the air, Bear, so we could play this back later. Here's what's going to happen. Here's how people are going to get disappointed this year. So instead of making 200 packs of stuff like we did last year, we asked everybody to make 500 if they could. I think one is 450 and one is 300, the Little Big Delicious. but we made substantially more than last year. So here's what's going to happen is, but we started pre-selling them spread out over the last few months, which would incentive people to get the tickets, but this way people at home or virtual would also have the equal opportunity to get stuff. So there's people who I'm pretty sure have bought the Great Smoke ticket and didn't understand this concept, still doesn't even know. They're expecting the limited releases to be there that day, which at this point, I think one definitely, maybe two will be gone before the Great Smoke happens out of the 4 that have been released already. So there are people who bought the ticket who didn't pay attention, didn't read how it works, and then will expect to find them that day when we've already been selling them since the first mini event. So that's going to be a problem. I'm already predicting it's going to happen. And the other problem is that, look, because we didn't want people to get short, we made a lot of more of these cigars, over double than what we had last year. So if they don't sell out, I can't just keep them around forever. We're going to have to make it available to the public if they don't sell out. But what we've done is whatever the normal list price would have been, anybody who gets one as a TGS stick holder will pay a special price. So at least they'll have gotten a better deal if it didn't sell out. But eventually going to sell it to the public. And then I'm going to get complaints from people who will say, well, that's not fair. I thought I was having access to something nobody will ever get. Well, you kind of did, but it didn't sell out. So I got to do something with the cigar, or we don't get enough of a cigar and everybody whines and didn't get a chance to complain it. So no matter what, with these situations, it's always, we're not going to win in certain areas. But what will happen is, if this format works and is successful and we continue to do this over time, more and more people will get used to it. They'll learn how the releases work. They'll learn to get in early, to buy them over time. And it's just going to be one of those things. But I'm telling you, these are already the problems I already foresee happening this year.
And it's on the record for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that leaves us our last question of the night, Abe. This is always our curveball segment, sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Congratulations. 7 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Steve Saka's been knocking them out of the park since the company's inception. Congrats to Steve. 7 consecutive years in the consensus top 3. So this, at the end of our conversation, Abe is going to end exactly where it started, with a sip of whiskey. So yeah. If you were a sip of whiskey, how would your mentor and longtime friend, Sal Fontana, describe it?
Describe what?
You. If he were to compare you to a sip of whiskey, how would he describe you?
Oh, God, what a weird question.
It's a curveball segment.
How would Sal describe me compared to whiskey?
Yes. Would he say that you are?
I'm supposed to use like a whiskey analogy for him?
Yeah. Are you sweet with a long finish? Are you smoky with the right amount of bite? I'm just throwing things out here.
You sounded like Matt Booth there. That was very. Are you smoky with a long finish? Yeah, that was a little weird. Oh wow. I mean, yeah, that's such an odd question. How would Sal Fontana describe me? Nothing that really describes a good whiskey describes me.
Well, I beg to differ, but okay, if that's the way you want to go with it.
What's a long finish? What's a peaty? What's floral? I mean, it's let's see here. I'm gonna get creative on you. Ready?
Yeah, hit me.
The more you're around it and the more you have, the better you feel. How about
there
that?
You go. I love it. Fantastic. Fantastic. Fantastic.
That was a curveball.
Yeah. It's probably I honestly, it was probably my best one in a long time. So thanks for participating, and I appreciate it. At least the best curveball I've thrown. So and thank you so much for tonight. I can't thank you enough for the amazing evening as always. You're one of my favorite people to talk to, just on a regular basis, and interviews is always just fantastic with you as well. And
am I correct? Because I got a lot going on. You are coming in 3 weeks.
I am. I will be there.
Popping your
First great
cherry.
smoke. Yeah.
Awesome. Life
I,
is going to be the best. In the words of Terrence Riley, it's going to be the best night of your life.
I'm so excited. I'm thrilled. I can't believe it, honestly. And yeah, I couldn't be happier about it. I'm so excited to report back on what a great experience it's going to be. I know it's going to be fantastic. And I know it's going to be a lot more than even what I have in my mind. So
Cool.
again, Abe, thank you so much for your time tonight. Guys, get your tickets now. It's not too late. This is going to be a fantastic event. If nothing else, I'm going to be there. So, I mean, come on, you can come and meet me in person. Trust me, there's going to be a lot more important people that you want to meet, but I'll be there and you can meet me if you want. The Great Smoke 2022, the last luau. Check it out. Links will be are in the chat. They'll be in the notes later. As always, you can check us out on YouTube, on our LOSOFUMAR page, on our Facebook page, LOSOFUMAR, for upcoming guests. And speaking of Terrence Riley, he will be our guest next week, in fact. So good times there. And looking forward, as always, to the great Take 200 in 2 weeks. A fantastic guest. You don't want to miss that announcement. It's coming here in a few days. We're just finalizing those details. And you can always check us out on wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it be on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review. As always, this was our 198th take live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studios of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always. He's Abe Dababneh. Thanks, everybody. Guess what? See you next time.